you have a small nuclear reactor, and as soon as you got into NATO DIANA, immediately you got somebody reaching out to you, wanting to work with you. Tell me more.
Yeah, that was surprising to the extent that we weren't necessarily expecting, but we got this inbound interest from the major primes, and they already had a lot of ideas, what we should do with our product and the direction we should go. And by the way, consider this: there's a real need here as well, beyond perhaps the Arctic dimension that you're currently
because you applied for the Arctic dimension initially, and that's what you got into NATO DIANA. And we talked maybe, I don't know, half a year or a year already before that about your product and so on. So what has evolved with you? Like, what was the initial thought that this is the usefulness of it? Because you have a small reactor. It's like it's a nuclear reactor, but it's small. Can we go into that? Because because I actually said to you, I'm being a dick most of the time, but I'm like, yeah, you haven't invented a nuclear reactor, and we already have nuclear reactors on these hangar ships. So what's your thing? Like, why is this useful? So can you get it? Why are we not seeing that on corvettes, for example? What's going on?
Right. And this was the conversation, and I did ask you before we even applied. Should we are busy with everything, and everything is away from something else, and this is a very particular application you have to fill out, and you have to really think it through, especially when you're like commercial first company.
It's like a job. Like applying for that thing is like a part-time job.
You have to rethink everything if you're not already very heavily in the dual-use sphere or in the defense side of things. So I did ask you, and I was partly hoping you would say that, I don't think you're not gonna cut it. So I okay, I got 2 days to work on something else.
Yeah.
But you said that no, you go for it. And then we also tweaked the application based on your input. Probably wouldn't have gotten in, and we had a little practice trial run before that as well. That was really helpful and probably helped us as well.
But why are we not seeing reactors on the ships? Why? What's the thing?
So the thing, and to answer your question, that because we have this commercial focus. And the only way to make this work is to work with the commercial realities and cost. It comes down to cost. So how we're approaching this, we try to innovate as less as possible. Like, we try to minimize innovations. Like, whatever is already available there, bringing this technology to the commercial side. Nice. It's a separate technology track, but off-the-shelf components, assembly line approach, we can bring this to like a fraction of the price of these legacy providers.
So we have in the past, have we done it tailored, like a tailored suit every time, but one can actually kind of assemble it in a way?
Yeah, there's probably on multiple levels, considering who the client is and how they approach cost, and then the corporations who are serving this particular client and how they're built organizationally. And then also you have a kind of a tailor fit. Okay, this is what we have. This is not for all vessel types. This is for this submarine. This is for this aircraft carrier. We're gonna tailor everything around it. And the needs on the military side are a little bit different as well. Where on the commercial side, like cost and reliability. And then you have to have full power when your submarine capsizes. All these scenarios. So. It's a combination of these things that kind of accumulate.
So it sounds like your idea here. You actually sounds like the space industry almost, like the idiot tax. I think Elon Musk called it. That you have the cost of the material we cannot get away, but all the additional costs is because we're not smart enough to do it better. And maybe there was a really huge idiot tax or idiot ratio on submarines and aircraft carriers, which have a tailor-made nuclear machine. But if we think that we want to make the nuclear engine as cheap as we can, just make a really good small one. Yeah. We don't have to have a huge extra cost for all this tailoring. It's not worth it. Just make it good enough that it works and gives power. Am I on the right track here?
No. I starting from first principles, I like it. You forget the historical baggage you have, decades and decades. You forget all that, and then you think okay, how can we make this work as cheap, as fast, and easy to license as possible? It usually means the safest as well, because we have so much accumulated knowledge about all these.
Oh, that's good. Actually, that's a good thing, because we had an experiment happen here with Minlog, where we did a new type of trailer, kind of to pull a thing, And when we did that, it kind of broke a couple of times, so we had to rebuild it. It still worked, but we had to rebuild it a couple of times. And then I realized, like being an idiot, but I'm like, if we would have used a normal trailer, it has been used for thousands upon thousands of people have used it, and now it is in a stable state that it will not break under almost any condition because it's just used all the time. So, I sound stupid like this, but I realized we should just use what's off the shelf because that works. It works already.
No, that's the thing. Like, we're not like trying to reinvent the wheel necessarily. There is, everybody wants to reinvent the reactor. Okay, we're gonna make it. Your reactor is already like 1,000 times more efficient than the diesel engine, 1,000,000 times, and then let's do like 2 million, like. But like, why?
Well, why don't you do just 1 million?
You could just like use the pressure, like in terms of at least on the fuel, uranium versus diesel, and then why don't you just use the reactor? There's like 15,000 operating years on land and 70 years of experience on sea. There's been as many reactors on the sea that there's been on the land, and you have all these operating history. Like what? Why are you like trying to? And when you go to the licensing authorities, which is the biggest bottleneck, then they have to hire people to understand your technology before they could even find what's wrong with it. And then like, now you have to test that because we don't have thousands of years of operating history. Now give us thousand years of operating history on that component because we don't have it. Like there's unnecessary steps people are like trying to do for no reason, kind of, to make things work.
Well, now you make it sound so easy. So anybody can make a nuclear plant. Is what you're saying?
Well, there you go. But I like the comparison you said with like kind of SpaceX, and they went. We have someone on our advisory board. The people who went to kick the tires on the Russian rockets before Elon and SpaceX decided that let's build our own rocket. That's the best. But they tried to buy a thing as well. We did the same thing. We went to the legacy providers, but there's so much defense IP, export controls. That door is closed. It's not the fastest way to market, and the price tag is heavy. But I like the SpaceX comparison. Also, like some people bring it up sometimes, and I have this very non-Finnish cocky line that I like to share. Yeah, it's a little bit like SpaceX, but the market is a lot bigger.
That's a good one.
But there's a little bit truth to that. It's.
But so what happened is some of the people who might want to join the NATO DIANA accelerator, and I know it's good, but like before we spoke, we have been speaking before the accelerator, and I still think you had a good case, but it seemed like something happened when you got in. So like, what's changed?
Yeah, and I didn't believe you, by the way, when you saw the last application material we had and everything. Like, okay, this is good. You have a real chance, and this is really really competitive, like 3,600 applicants and very high level companies that didn't get in on all maturity levels as well. So I was like, perhaps Rasmus is wrong about this one. He's usually right, but he's wrong about this one. But you were right. We went in with 2 tracks on the maritime operations and then the operations in extreme environments, Arctic kind of being part of it. We got to the last stage on both, and then we were selected on operations in extreme environments. And after we got in, because we weren't kind of planning with this in mind, the immediate validation, especially because NATO knows a thing or two about nuclear propulsion. So for a company like us, they're like, oh, this all checks out. You have the team, then okay, you can pull it off, like all that. So just that validation that okay, you know what you're doing, and you have the right path that you've selected. But then what was really surprising, and I brought this up in the beginning, but the inbound interest on both on the major primes and on that side, and the ministries of defense approaching us, like calling us. In Finland they called us like, how can we help you? And they've been doing all these connections and all that, like very helpful. They have like a dedicated person to help us and the other companies involved. And same thing with the other European like navies and everything. Like they're very open-minded, and you know, perhaps like in hindsight, this wasn't an accident. There is a demand for this, and you know, we weren't opening this discussion and dialogue, but it's something already exists. But we had no idea, of course, this is behind closed doors. But you know, so you know, we were.
Also,
in
it
the
seems
right
like the NATO
direction.
helped you to open that. Like you could have tried this otherwise, but when you got into NATO DIANA, it kind of give you like a speed lane for this. That's what it sounds like to me.
Definitely, and you know, the accelerator is in the name, and all that. But like, how most of these work, like, do you really get the return on investment on your time and energy, and whether like usually the answer is no, but just the professionalism behind it, how everything is organized and structured, at least in where we are based in Turin, and everything they've been able to do with people from very high up. There is as many uniforms as there is CEOs on the room, and I don't know. I don't know what their expectation level was, but it is a little bit beyond what we were expecting. Like in the first 2 weeks, I think we achieved as much as we thought. Like during the whole program, and after that, like in the first 2 weeks, it's amazing. It's gonna plateau at some point. It can't go up like that. You know, we're gonna run out of primes and ministries of defense at some point. If that would be, but it's great.
Well, what are the user cases? Thank you for sharing all this. What are the user cases that you're now seeing? What do you think is the most likely use for a small modular reactor that you have?
What could I share? Well, this is our like starting point when we went in. That okay, especially when you operating in the Arctic, or let's say even in the Pacific theater, or anywhere you have long distances, you are in a great disadvantage if you don't have this power source. That you know, some other countries they have you know eight nuclear icebreakers they're operating. They have the cargo ships floating nuclear power, and then you would have to have this whole logistics package to get into certain areas. If you want to operate there commercially, or you know, as a private enterprise, and you know, protect that, or in any surveillance aspect of it.
Can I add?
It is a no-brainer.
Yeah, what I'm thinking about that let's say Arctic, or we can use the Pacific. Like if I did this with my kids, I looked at the Pacific, and it's so large that you don't almost see any land. If you tilt the Earth the right way, you almost see no land at all. It's just blue. So the Pacific Ocean is like 50% of the Earth. So if you're stuck over there, and you have to get oil transports, you know, back and forth wherever you are, it's quite far.
You almost have to have your own like fuel supply logistics for your fuel supply chain. There's like, and then it accumulates. It is like with the rockets. Like when you add weight, you add more fuel. You need more fuel to get to the escape velocity. Like the more you add, the more you have to add. So it's the same thing. So like, why don't you take this complication away? And this is easy to disrupt as well in times of conflict. Yeah. You know, this is a vulnerable... said
because it runs, they said in this was Afghanistan or something, but they say they basically have to run it like clockwork, because if it doesn't, like you run out of fuel, you have, I don't know, storage for 1 day, 1 week, whatever it is, but if it's disrupted, you are in a huge problem. And you're not the only place that needs fuel, so they have all kinds of things, fuel's going left, right, like up, down, and it becomes really easy to target, because if you don't have it on a nice schedule, the thing doesn't work. But if you have it on a nice schedule, the opponent can figure it out quite easily. Here's where these routes are going and how often they're coming, and now they can target them. And that was insurgencies, but if we're in real war, these things become even harder, I think, to sustain.
Exactly, and you know, especially like sustained conflict, these things accumulate. And then in case of Europe, we already heavily fossil fuel import dependent. So when in times of conflict, demand goes up, and the supply, because of number of reasons, it will go down. What are we going to do? So should we at least have some ships, or at least some that would convert to nuclear, that we have that like a backbone that we can always kind of lean on to, especially during sustained conflict when things get dire and dire, like every year. So there's a strategic level to this as well, that, you know, why we should tap into it.
Yeah. Well, so what's happening on your side? You said your OEMs are reaching out. You're meeting all kinds of MODs and stuff. What is that? Can you share anything? I'm curious what people can learn from you. Like what's going on that you can teach to somebody else? Like,
on the application or like after?
No, I mean running the business. I mean just running your business.
The business.
Yeah.
You should be, there's all these like guidance that how you should build like from 0 to 1 and every different directions, and it's like conflicting advice. But if we have this plan, like I rarely quote Mike Tyson on anything, but in business, he said something along the lines like everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face. So planning has a limited value. So what do, we don't sleep, so we try everything, including NATO DIANA, even though it's like a sidetrack for us. And then if something happens, we make it work for us. So like doing a lot, we were at the point like first year and a half, like let's do everything and see what sticks. And now we don't have a choice. We have to little bit, okay, it's that path and that, and then that's a distraction. That when something starts to stick, but kind of fearless about losing your time and energy, and you're gonna do a lot of things that in hindsight didn't make any sense, and you have to be okay with that. I guess that's where we got to this, I would say, next level. This wasn't planned. You couldn't plan this, really. Yeah.
And you come from a researcher background, so I don't know, there's a lot of planning going on there in the nature of that work, I guess.
Well, yeah. Well, I've been, this is my confession. I'm not a billionaire yet, but I've been in this game for like 15 years on the venture side, technology ventures and technology side. My background is in law. I have like 3.5 law degrees, but I never really practiced. I just like kind of leverage it here and there, building like highly regulated businesses. But yes, I bring it to this, the cultures and the dynamics in different environments are well different. One biggest thing is that, what attracts me to, building companies is that it changes the culture because you're not dividing the cake anymore. You're building the cake. Everybody understands. Well, eventually, at least, no matter what environment you come in, at some point you go, oh, right. Oh, we're not dividing what we have here. We're building the big cake, and taking a little slice out of that is a lot more than dividing what doesn't even exist yet. So that is the mindset that you have to go into it as well, and it attracts a lot of people. It's a more humane environment than a lot of corporate environments, for example, or even on the research where dividing.
Yeah, I think I've noticed that in this defense world, that's what I like about it so much. It's at least right now it feels expansive that we're all building a cake here. I'm saying this with kind of tongue in cheek, but like we have a common opponent, and that is the defense ministries and the armed forces. Like we know what they need to buy.
No, and that's true. And when it's on the market level as well, things are growing. It's the same thing when it comes to nuclear propulsion, the commercial side. We're like rooting for our competition. Get those ships out there as fast as possible. We don't want to be the first. That will open the market. People are gonna see this is how it works, and then you have to supply thousands of reactors for 2,000 container ships and other vessels. Nobody can do that alone anyway. So like we're like, please get on it, do good work. Do really good work and get on it. Like the competition, like the market is so still niche and it's growing. So yeah, I get the feeling on a market level as well.
Yeah, and for me, I'm not only in nuclear propulsion, so I'm in all these other things. And I notice, generally speaking, if the tech is new and disruptive, like it's a new weird thing, it always has a niche. It doesn't necessarily compete with any of the old technology either, because they're still needed. You still need, anti-air systems with like Patriot missiles and stuff. They're still needed, even though there are other options too now. So it just feels like we have this huge cake. The cake itself is growing. They don't even know where to put all the money. So and your technology has a superior angle. Let's just get it out there. So the environment is very positive. And I would say also in the defense forces and on the ministry side, like everybody wants it to happen. It could go faster, but like I feel like there is not that much. It could go faster, but I feel like there's nobody really trying to make it go slow necessarily. It's just how fast can we go? It's not how slow. It's like how fast can we go? And of course, people like you and me want to go faster, but that's we can't fix that.
Yeah, and what happens with us? Like we try to go fast. Like that's the only benefit for a small company with limited resources. Like you just go fast. You don't overthink. You just do it, and then it works or it doesn't. But failure is just one of the outcomes out there, and you're just okay with it. Yeah.
But how close are you to actually producing some proper stuff that could be used?
Well, we're starting with you have to. What do you have? Like you have to, eat the elephant in pieces, or what do you say? So we're starting with. One approach we try to keep as long as possible, that when we are like marinizing a reactor, and we're using these land-based reactors to tailor them for the maritime use and for the ships and power barges, if you will. So we want to have different designs and different options, kind of to de-risk this whole maritime process. But the added benefit of this is that because we're not selling the CERN technology, well, nuclear for sure, but within that, it kind of attracts ship owners as well, and it seems that it's kind of attractive to the primes as well and the ministries of defense, because we're telling them we want the exact same thing. What is the easiest, fastest, cheaper? What works? We're on the same mission.
Maybe I rephrase my question. When will I see one of your reactors on a ship? Like how long do I have to wait? When is Santa coming?
It has to be, let's say, in 5 years. We have one commercial contract.
5 years. You're killing me, man. 5 years.
Okay, 4 years, 4 months. Well, this is the thing. We have our technology roadmap for it here, and depending on the funding and resources, and if we figure something out, we can bring it down from there. But let's say 3.5, because there's the licensing as well. Perhaps on the military.
Is it the licensing path that is the general hurdle here?
I would say we do a lot of testing just to make sure that things work, and you don't lose the power. Let's say probably other bigger scenarios, or with the modern reactors are off the table. But it's for us. But for most of the testing, and we have 100 million price tag for this whole roadmap, half of which let's say is public funding, but it's most for collecting data for the licensing authorities and make sure that everything works as expected, simulating it in a real or lifelike environment.
We can get to that point. I just realized we haven't talked about it because I have talked with you about it plenty. Yeah. But everybody talks about the security of these things. Mm-hmm. And one thing that you told me, that let's say you get hit by a missile and like the ship goes down, you almost like that's the best thing that can happen, because it's like it does no damage at all on the bottom of the ocean.
Yeah, there's like 14 reactors, and some of are touching the coastlines of Norway and relatively close to Finland as well from the top, and we have them in other places. Nothing, we go check them now and then. They're in a good place there. But, for PR reasons, you might want to just pick it up. If that happens, you might even want to have the option on your ships that, okay, let's drop it there if we need to.
Yeah, you might have a button to release
It's there until, we decide what's the best way to approach. And then you go with your backup power and, go to the point. All good.
Yeah.
But it is a good place. You don't need much water to actually block all the radiation. It's there. It's the best kind of moderator and shield you could have for the radiation, the water. So
would it go quiet if I had a nuclear reactor on the ship? Would it be a quiet ship, or more quiet than a diesel engine?
Well,
or is it worse?
It depends, and it used to be the case for the submarines as well. To my understanding, that this is why you chose nuclear first. Like you can go pretty quiet. But those, battery diesel ones, they have other disadvantages, but I think they can be pretty quiet too.
Yeah. I guess the submarine versions at least don't have to.
Yeah. And then we have a commercial, perhaps a more clunky version, not optimized for silence, but you get that price tag.
But maybe you're also because now I hear you're talking different than when we spoke last time. You're now you're also talking about submarines now. You're not saying it out loud, but it's in your brain. I never thought about that because I thought they got that covered. But I'm thinking like corvettes, like small, like just destroyers, as ships that are somewhat larger than the boats we normally see, but are ridiculously like they have to run by gasoline. I don't even know how many days they can stay at sea. There's a limit. Like if they have to move, they got to refuel.
Right. And they used to have service ships in the U.S. Now they actually refurbished the Russians refurbished their destroyer level ship that they nuclear powered as well.
Okay.
It's an old one, but I think at the end of the day, when they have the legacy systems in place, and they can be the price tag on these things and the maintenance and the crew and everything, it is a sizable price tag. So I think they became easy targets at some point. Aircraft carriers, submarines, the advantages are obvious. Service ships, you have to argue for it. But if you bring the price tag down, you can actually save money.
Yeah, that's a weird thing with this as well. You told me not only do we get all these advantages being unlimited time at sea. I mean, if people don't want to eat, but eventually, but anyway, they can stay out. But the fuel doesn't run out, and you save money. I'm like,
well, I give you the example from the commercial side. Like you have these average size container ships, and it goes between Europe and Asia. Annually, we just calculated, so this is one number, 38 million, and you don't even add to the European emission trading system on it. Annually one ship, 38 million. Lifespan of the ship, 25 years. You get to $500 billion in current fossil fuel prices.
Oh, wow.
We can easily put a reactor. We have on the unit level, on a land-based reactor, we could get one for 50 million, fuel for 8 years. You don't have to refuel. The equation is there. There's a lot of regulation. There's a lot of paradigm shifting. We try to make this as less disruptive as possible, least disruptive as possible. But the laws of physics are on the side of this, but also the economics.
And do we have practically unlimited uranium in the Earth?
Well, yes.
I did a hair sample, and they said the uranium. Well, when I had hair, but they did uranium check, and they said it's just below radiation poisoning when we live in Finland and Sweden, because there's just so much uranium in the ground here that the average radiation.
As well. Yeah. Well, you get a lot of radiation from above, and then a lot from random. To get the least radiation in Finland, probably you go in a nuclear power plant. That's the safest place because it's built that way. There's a lot of background radiation you get all the time, and you can get a good amount. You could go to Chernobyl for a weekend trip, and it's less than your X-rays you take. It's nothing happened.
But that's true. But I was also getting at the amount of uranium. If you think of I'm not a big climate person, but if you think about the oil will not last forever. Let's give it 10,000 years. There is a point where, so that's what I was curious. How are we able to transition to uranium use, for example, on many of these activities?
And I would say so. And by the way, we have this a very heavy decarbonization angle on the commercial side, because then your fuels on the green side is 3 or 5 times more expensive. So that 1 billion price tag becomes 5 or 3. Oh my God. Ship owners are losing there as well. But when it comes to uranium, we have currently known deposits for 50 to 100 years. But then on the sea, there is so much, you have 200 years extra. And then the funny thing is that all the spent fuel we have, 95% of that you could actually reuse until you run out. if there's the security and safeguards reasons because then it becomes weapon craze at some point. But in France or in the Russia or even in the US, you could reuse that spent fuel. So you have even if we triple, like the goal is triple the nuclear energy production, I don't know, thousands of years. Well, we're gonna have fusion, when
so you mean like we have enough uranium, even if we power like all the ships and stuff for like some thousands of years, probably.
Yeah.
Well, that makes me feel good. I like that.
Yeah.
We will have an ice age before we have run out of uranium.
We have all kinds of problems probably before that. It's not a real problem.
We have ice age right now in Finland. I'm just looking out the window, like we have 20 minus in the south of Finland. Like I'm not living in the north on purpose, but So. But that's kind of cool. So like that means that within our lifetimes, we should see. There will be plenty, if not like if in our lifetime we add 50 years to whatever we're living now, the big ships should just run on these type of reactors. It would be silly not for them to have that.
Yeah, and I think most economists would agree as well. And it's the future energy mix is gonna be, even in the maritime, it's gonna be all of these things that we mentioned. And batteries for short distance is great. Ocean faring vessels, it's not an option.
Yeah.
Weight and space and all that. But it's gonna be all of these options, and every last 1 barrel of oil probably will be used on some timeline.
Yeah.
You'll like it or not. Perhaps we can expand the timeline and figure things out on the way. But yeah, nuclear is definitely an option, and there's because we have to beyond the decarbonization angle. I'm just gonna throw some numbers at you, but even in maritime only, because of fossil fuel, like combusting that in the air affects the air quality in different ways. All the nitrogen, sulfur oxides and all that, and you name it. And you can, even in Helsinki, you can smell it if you're in Jätkäsaari and there's a ship there. You can smell the ships that they're there. Oh, there's a ship here because okay, I can smell it.
Do they filter their stuff? Because the same with like military vehicles, you're like, this is raw diesel, like it doesn't filter at all.
There is that, but annually, there's 400,000 people premature deaths every year because of the maritime using it. It's become to like 4 to 10 million depending on the source if we all the energy use we think. And even if you don't care about the lives, there's a price tag for nations as well and taxpayers at the end of the day. So there's a lot of reasons why ship owners kind of can't bet that we have to do something about it.
Yeah, I mean the engineer in me said like when it's cheaper, I don't have to refuel, I don't have to have this hassle with that, and it's just cleaner. There's very little, to motivate me not to do it.
Yeah, there is a lot. Okay, there's a lot of problems that you have to and a lot of the ship owners we talk to, if you had one that we could buy now, the discussion would be different. But because the defense IP and that firewall between, we have to have a separate track. The 5 years, when we start having these things, okay, 4+ for you, Rasmus, and so and then the regulatory side, port access, you have to insure these things. You also have to modify the ship a little bit. I wouldn't perhaps, not with the current fossil fuel prices, military ships you should. But on the commercial side, I wouldn't convert the ship necessarily and do the modifications because the price of a cargo ship is not that much. So when you're building it, perhaps have the capability there, like nuclear ready, nuclear compatible. Same thing with the military ships. At least you have to.
I like that. That's a sales option. Like, I know you can't have it now, but you're nuclear compatible.
Yeah. You be prepared for everything. So That should at least be an option.
Yeah. Well, I'm seeing a different future now. I like that we're going to have Nuka-Cola and stuff. I like that stuff. I want to have the whole. But it kind of we've been waiting for this nuclear energy to do something. For me, it feels like it hasn't moved in like 50 years, like 1970 something. It feels like it froze. Because we haven't seen.
know,
Well, we have the new reactor in Finland that is newly built, right? But it's not that. Yeah.
right, but yeah, and you know, when you talk to ex-nuclear submarine officers or something, and they're like, oh, finally, like the world makes sense. You know, why are you not bringing this? And these guys are like, you know, when they talk about these things, oh, there is this, you know, there is this, you know, part of whatever. Like, you know, it's just a machine. You know, it's like probably like a diesel engine is more complicated to them. Like it's there and it works, and you know, you have to this pipe a little bit this well. Like there's no magic, you know, around it, no magic dust, you know, no. So they are like, yeah, okay, finally, you know, things start making sense. Yeah. So yeah, looking forward to it as well. You're betting a lot on this, so.
Yeah, I can see that. Well, what are some next steps for you guys? What are you up to now?
So we are now closing our fundraising end of Q1 or early Q2.
Can you say how much you're raising?
It's what we're aiming for is 7.7 million, half of which is public funding.
Right.
Could go a little bit over as well, but not too much. And the most traction we have is we haven't approached too many defense tech investors yet, or dual use. But on the maritime side, it seems that they understand the challenges that are there, but also the opportunity. So it's not just question marks. They understand, okay, I know what the risks are, I know what the opportunity are, and this makes sense. So from their side, you know, there is a lot of inbound traction as well. And NATO DIANA as well, by the way, a lot of investors, they see us on our list. We went through a filter or two in their minds. Okay, let's reach out. And you know, and not just like information seeking thing like, oh, we are very active and let's talk about partnering up, and you know, we are willing to invest, like that kind of opening line, you know. So
but in a way, even though you have 5 years ahead of you, like how much you're raising, in a way you sound quite mature from that perspective. Like you said, the money is needed for the testing. Like it sounds like the idea and how to build it is somewhat okay. You have to customize it for a certain boat maybe, but it's like quite far down the road. But it needs to be tweaked and tested to get to exactly the point where it can be released commercially.
Right, like those like high level milestones are very clear. Like on a component level, those critical components, you need test arrangement and test beds for that. You have to do that. We're working on this like a shielding structure as well that is a little bit technology agnostic as well. And on the NATO environment, like it's, you know, if no bazooka is gonna, you know, work on it. And then, you know, on the commercial side, then you can kind of leverage that. By the way, even in that hostile, harsh environment, this is okay. You know, we can definitely work with it here. But yeah, then, you know, a bigger test bed, we need a demo reactor on the whole system on a test bed as well. That's a thing on its own. Probably we have to build it on water with hydraulics. We might have to capsize scenarios. We might have to simulate those as well. Yeah. So there's a lot on this like a marinizing part that we have to do, and that's where all the money goes, practically. But it's not $1 billion effort of building your reactor from scratch. It's just like 100 million. You do it
exactly.
Well, just 100
Only
million.
100 million.
It's Silicon Valley software company money now.
Yeah, they are very billion. They like the billion word.
Yeah. Like they don't even know these small numbers anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, but it's how would I say? Of course, in the US, when it comes to nuclear, it's all about AI data centers and all that. You know, okay, our power projects could serve that as well, and we have business model for that. But the maritime is a little bit new for them. You have to educate the investors a lot how the maritime works and the dynamics there. So, you know, it's a challenge. It's like, well, this is the advice you get with everybody, but, you know, you have to talk to like a 5-year-old. So it's the same thing, like sorry, Valley investors, but you go to the Valley, you can, oh, by the way, you can get AI with nuclear, but you can also get other things that are way more scalable and have higher margins as well. You know, you can get other things too.
Think of a 5-year-old with like a $1 billion budget, right? He's going to spend that money, and he's looking for candy. You got to explain to him what type of candy you are, so that he puts the money in your candy shop. I know, yeah. But it's right,
yeah,
like, and nobody knows. How do I say? I'm somewhat of a generalist myself as well. But the trick is, one doesn't have to know every detail. That's up to you. Like Roope needs to know these very fine details. It's up to the investor to figure out that this makes sense to go in this direction, and that's what.
Yeah. Oh, and, that's another thing. The pattern recognition that VCs are very good at. Like, okay, we know the patterns. Like, you have to have this guy, and this investor, and that guy, and whatever, and then we see these rockets. Then we see these rockets going on. But when it comes to nuclear, and you have two young Tesla, the perfect Silicon Valley company. You have two Tesla engineers, one that worked at SpaceX, and they work in their garage, and whatever. You take a little bit wrong path, especially in nuclear, but also in maritime. You need to consider. But you're taking wrong path in nuclear. You're gonna be on that wrong path for 20 years, and your money is gone. Or you have to have 20 times the money, and then you might have a chance to get something.
Well, so you can't.
Is still the same.
What do you mean? So the pivoting is, why is the pivoting so hard?
When it comes to nuclear, the boring thing is that everything's been done in the 50s, 60s, 70s. And a lot of things have been tried after. So a lot of these, what nuclear technology companies, they take a little ingredient of that and then they add their own flavor. But adding that your own flavor already is, if you know the history, I'm not, but our chief nuclear officer does. Yes, that has been tried as well. Yes, it can be done and can be done. But then when you get to that point, that's 3 years extra for you to prove it for the licensing body or whatever, to make that particular component that you can prove that works. Or in that path, I can do it. It's there already, like 2+ years, and then 2+ years there, and that's like hundreds of millions. And there's no guarantee that you can actually get over that hurdle. So you do things simple and add a little bit of your own flavor, but you have to be a little bit careful in this industry. So then you need the experience. Same thing on the maritime side. Like, you can't sell a ship or a reactor or engine room if you don't have the connections. So your Tesla engineering background, it translates very well in the Valley. But when you go to talk to the ship owners of the world, sorry, like your credibility is zero. Like,
but I like what. Build your own ship first. But I like what you're saying, because in a way, one can profile you as a type of SpaceX type of person for nuclear, which I think you are.
Right.
But there's a reality that when they're able to build SpaceX, I mean, maybe that's a closer comparison. But Tesla, I read his book recently. It was a biography. He didn't write it. It was a biography about him. But the way he was able to make the factory more efficient was very inspiring to me. But it was still, you could do the same, but the type of game you're playing is so cost intensive and regulated that one can't. It's the behavior that is done in that factory cannot be replicated in this world in this way. So one has to. We want to go faster and smarter, but it just doesn't translate very well.
Yeah, you have to know the bottlenecks, and then the efficiencies and things on the technical side that you with rockets. If you lose half of your efficiency in your rocket engines, you're gonna be in trouble. Like, the laws of physics are gonna come right. But if we just let's use this old reliable tech, worked 40 years well there, and you lose efficiency to some degree, it doesn't really matter. That's the you have to play the big game, and sometimes what attracts investment and money is like, we're doing this another way. We're reinventing this, and this is the new future for nuclear. That probably it sells, but then you have the reality outside of that bubble, and
Well, it sounds like what you mentioned in the beginning, that I could make this reactor that gives me 1 megawatt, whatever. What's a good reactor power? 1 megawatt.
Well, 1 megawatt heat is good for our ships. Yeah.
Okay, so like you get it, like I can do 1 megawatt, and he's like, no, but I can get 2, but it's an experimental stage and it will take forever. So like, but the 2 megawatt is like an imaginary 2 megawatt versus the reality is we can get a 1 megawatt into a ship in our lifetimes that can actually be used. But if we go for the really cool new innovative way of making this, which gives you 2 or 10 megawatts, it's not gonna it's not gonna happen. It might, but it probably won't, and we just waste our money.
You got it. You got it. You're there. Because like we call these paper reactors. You know, there is or PowerPoint reactor. There is this, and you know, there is let's go to the maritime side again. You know, General Rickover, who you know, Admiral Rickover, who actually built the first nuclear submarines, and actually that is the technology that they actually put on land as well. So the maritime was first, and we're using that technology, actually. So, but you know, he had this, and our chief nuclear officer could quote him better. But you know, there is this thing about paper reactors and these PowerPoint reactors. PowerPoint wasn't a thing back then, but paper reactors that you know. They're very simple, cheap. You use off-the-shelf equipment, and you know, easy to develop. R&D time is, you know, low and everything, and there is no surprises. And then you have the real reactors, always complicated, costly, and then these seemingly trivial parts and components become an issue, and that's the reality. So exactly what you said. You know, it's the. And when it comes to new technology, the unknown unknowns. We have 15,000 operating years on certain things. We got from efficient, like online time of a reactor from 70 to 95% in 40, 50 decades. You're starting from, you call these like 4th generation reactors sometimes. And we're looking into this 4th generation as well, especially the gas-cooled ones, because there's some operating history behind it. We understand them. We're looking into those as well, especially. And we haven't excluded anything, but some, you know, meaner you know, actors that they call them 0th generation, because you're starting from zero in some sense, like collecting all that.
I like the violence of this language. You're 0th generation, because it doesn't work like it should. Okay, Roope, I have to round this off, but if you want to leave us with anything, what should people know about Seatom, and what do you want to share with the audience? Let's see.
Now I can say this at more confidence, actually, that you know, this is we have this like a momentum now. Now it was easy to get us off the horse, or you know, get us off the track, and you know, shake us. And especially what is happening around us as well, like just 1.5 years, 2 years on the commercial side, and now also on the defense side. There is so much interest, and the laws of physics are on this side. The economics are on this side as well. It's going to be the future to some extent, at least, at a minimum.
I think so. I think it's going to be. I think that I will see one of these ships and it's like Roope made that.
Yeah,
made the engine there.
Right. We're going to, you know, Pisilira 1, NS Pisilira 1 and 2, and, you know, we're going to have those as well.
Get that on the yacht.
But, you know, it's... I would be disappointed. I'm an optimist when it comes to humankind. We correct our errors. Sometimes we go the wrong path, but we'll find a way. I would be a little bit disappointed in humankind if we don't have this soon.
I agree. Let's end on that. Thank you very much, Roope, for the interview. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you, Rasmus.